Rhett Palmer.
The mayor of the airwaves is ready to go. Talking to people you want to know.
Face to face.
One-on-one. Get the story and have some fun
With Rhett Palmer.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
And welcome to our broadcast. This is the mayor of the airways, Rhett Palmer. We have Don Bell. Great to have Don Bell in here again. We're fast becoming good friends. He was on a few years ago, came back recently, has a new book out, as you can see it on the screen. If you're watching on the screen, Struggle to Zero. If you're just listening to us audibly, it's Struggle to Zero by Don Bell. Bachelor of Science degree, Master of Arts degree, career with the U.S. Secret Service. And just in case you didn't know, every current president, whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama, whether it's Biden, whoever it might be, John F. Kennedy, $800 million a year, roughly, for the Secret Service, for the president and the president alone, not including the children, not including the wife. So there's two special jets. We got a lot to talk about, especially right now in current affairs with Donald Trump. And you said today is a day of infamy for the United States.
Yes, well, I think it's a very low point in our country.
To weaponize the judicial system?
Weaponize any agency of the federal government against anyone, whether it be a Democrat or a Republican.
Either.
Either.
I didn't like it when Stark, or whatever his name was, Starr, was going after Clinton. I didn't like it. It was like, stop it. You're tearing down the country. Mm-hmm. It's why Nixon left the office, so we stopped tearing apart the country.
Right, and really, I've started out with the federal government at the age of 18, 2 weeks out of high school. My graduating class had 22 students located in a cornfield in western Tennessee. Okay, so and so I have.
You came from very humble beginnings.
Well, yeah, right. About as humble as you could get. I don't think
you didn't even have a toilet inside the house, right?
No. I mean, I'm sort of embarrassed to even talk about it.
Well, I don't think you should be. You know why?
I never toot my horn or play poor or anything like that because I'm just not that way.
Well, I like that about you, and it's like Dr. Graham started off very humble, and he's probably one of the humblest, loving guys I ever met. And you started off with less, and that's a good beginning to be appreciative of life and thankful.
But anyway,
how did you go on to? I mean, your parent. What did your dad do for a living?
He was a Methodist, hellfire and damnation type Methodist minister, starting out.
The offspring of a pastor.
He started out in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and he retired in 1965. And he was, at the lower end of the Methodist church as far as ministers and so forth, because so that was a situation there. But
that had to influence you. I mean, were you? Was it a perfunctory duty of yours to believe and go to church, or was there any point where actually, you fell to your knees, whether you did physically or with your heart, where you accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior? Not because it was demanded of you, because you can't. God has no grandchildren. In other words, it was between your father and him. It's between me and God. It's between your son. He can't inherit Jesus through you. Would you say there was a time? But each of us have to make a time of commitment. Would you say that happened to you?
What happened was that I started going to church before I was born, when my mother was pregnant with me, and every Sunday.
You were being preached that inside the womb.
It's through osmosis.
No, they say babies can hear all that.
But anyway, that was how I started going. It was before I was born, 9 months before I was born. But
are you still a Methodist today?
Still
or
a Methodist.
You do?
Yes.
Is there a church, Methodist in town?
Church here in Vero Beach.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Do you know what time your services are, just so people can know? Sunday?
You have two on Sunday, one at 8:15 a.m.
8:15.
and then the other one at 11 a.m.
Okay, yeah, that's just like
Sunday, But
Oceans. yeah.
anyway, what the point I want to make is that after I graduated from high school, this 2 weeks out of high school,
Yes.
I was in D.C. Washington, D.C. was my
Mhm.
first job with the federal government.
That's
the
amazing.
lowest paying job they had,
Yeah.
$2,960 a year. So here I
Yeah,
am.
but you could buy a house for
I-
$2,000 back
I
then.
know. But anyway, so I landed there and started a career, I guess. It ended up with a career with the federal government. It so happened that it was with the U.S. Secret Service, and my life was like an old bumper car at one of these old greasy carnivals that would
Yeah.
come through the
In what
small
way?
towns,
Yeah,
because you just bumped here and bumped there. And
Wherever they told you to go and
no,
bump.
wherever I had an opportunity. Now, okay, so 2 weeks out of high school in D.C.,
hmm
and then I was up there 4 years before I started college full time.
Wow.
I
Did that give you a greater appreciation for learning?
does it ever, because when I started college, I was 4 years behind, and I was so far behind. A lot of people say I thought I was first, but so the point being, so
I'm
the
so
point
far
being,
behind. I
I
thought I was
started
first. I
being
like
familiar
that.
with the federal government, the federal
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
when I was 18. So
Wow.
for all those years,
22 years of age.
until I retired from the Secret Service, and after I retired, I still did some contract work with the federal government.
Now, did they
okay?
pay for your education?
No, I
They,
had.
so did you have to work your way through college or what?
Yes, I did.
What'd you do?
I worked at a men's clothing store part time and here and there, And
Matt that used to be on the Today Show. That's what he did.
yeah,
I met him in the
yeah.
cold clothing store he used to work at.
But anyway, I had that. I was doing that, just struggling to. I didn't know what I was going to do from one day to the next, really, and so I was lucky along the way that I had one. Well, first of all, in my lifetime I had $50 given to me only. I had nothing else given to me. I had $50.
Wow.
My parents gave me $50 after I graduated from Murray State University.
Which would be the equivalent of what, 500 or 1,000 now?
I don't know. It's according to how much the inflation
Yeah.
is. But anyway,
We used to be able to get a banana split when I was young
so
for
I-
49 cents.
so the point I'm making is that's the only amount of money that
Yeah.
was actually given to me, and so.
But it made you man having to work your
Well-
way through college, right? No handouts.
Everything else seemed easy in life.
Yeah.
Really, basics for me.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, man, this is easy compared to what I had to go through.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Now, why didn't you
struggled.
study? If you were in the Secret Service,
Yes.
so you got a degree. It says right here, you got a Bachelor of Science degree, Murray State University, Master of Arts. Now that's up my alley. I'm an artist. I'm a singer-songwriter, and a composer. I do
Right.
physical art. But why didn't you study criminology or
Well,
something?
I had the Master of Arts degree from George Washington University.
Yeah.
Now, that is not a slouchy school,
No.
but anyway, I managed to make it through that, and
But yet you
that
go
was
for an
tough.
arts degree, but yet, and I'd like to talk to you
Well,
more about that
now,
someday,
with
but
that
you
Master
get
of-
hired back into the Secret Service.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
No?
As far as the type of degree you had.
Was there a time later on? I was told when I was a boy that you had to be a lawyer to be in the Secret Service. Did that happen
was
in the future?
A
That did?
lawyer and accountant along the
Oh
way.
my word!
director,
A lawyer and an accountant?
or an
Oh, and
accounting
or.
degree. 2-year. Actually, all you needed, as far as accounting degree, was this 2-year accounting degree from an accounting school. And there in D.C.,
Wow.
they had 2 or 3, like Benjamin Franklin Accounting, and
Wow.
Strayer Accounting, and it was you get a degree after 2 years. So anyway,
Wonderful.
But J. Edgar Hoover, the director,
Wow.
did change
Now,
that.
I want to
Then
get
it
what I
was
want.
changed back. Okay.
Oh, it's changed back.
Oh yeah, to where they later on they accepted a.
Oh, you don't
regular
have to be a lawyer.
college degree
Oh, good.
Plus 3 years.
Well, that's probably wise because I remember I was working at Albany Medical Center as a security guard, 12-hour shift at night. when I was 19 years of age. And I ran into this famous kidney surgeon, and he and I became friendly, and we're chatting. He said, it's not good what's going on. I said, what's that? He said, they're only accepting 4.0 averages. He said, they don't make the best doctors. Just because you can memorize something or you have a photographic memory doesn't mean you have application skills. So he was upset about that. And so here now it was taken back that, no, you don't have to be a lawyer or an accountant. Yeah, they want regular people that are well-rounded. Now, this is what I want to know, though. We got to talk about Trump today. Because you came in here today and you and I were talking in the back room and you said this is a day, essentially we both said this is a day of infamy because it's like a third world nation. Do you think, this is just on a personal level. So we know you're not representing the Secret Service at this point. But tell me something, but you represent yourself, an American, 83 years of age. You lived here your whole life, started off in Kentucky as a poor boy, made good in your life, served many of our presidents. You met Truman. You worked with Nixon. You worked with Reagan, Ford, Carter, and Old Man Bush.
I call him that.
It wouldn't be prudent, not at this juncture. Now read my lips. I met him thrice. That guy's funny. He had a great sense of humor.
He did. They were, really, they were a nice family.
Yeah.
And all the presidents that I protected, was signed to protect, all of them came from nice people. They were nice people.
But the bottom line is it's $800 million a year, basically, for just the president, not including wives, children, not including senators, anybody else. That's just for the president. There's 2 jets. Now, you said,
whichever airplane the president's on is Air Force One.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Either or.
Either or, and they have a whole more than one airplane out at Andrews Air Force Base that he takes. It's according to how long the trip is and where.
I'm sure there's sometimes they want to do a clandestine operative. For instance, he's going to Iraq. They don't want anybody to know he's going to land in Iraq.
Really.
Yeah.
But anyway, the $800 million is
spit in the bucket, right?
Well, it's whatever it takes.
And there used to be that later on in life. First of all, you got lifetime protection. Then it changed to only 10 years, and now they've changed it back to life because they realize there's still vindictive people out there that will shoot a former president. We can't have that.
For the president and first lady.
Right. And even he dies and she continues.
Right. Definitely.
We saw that movie. Remember the movie with Mamie, represented, what was it, Eisenhower, Mrs. Eisenhower? Mamie, is that her name?
Mamie was her name.
Yeah. Did you get to meet her too?
One time I did when she came over to the Department of State. When I was in our headquarters in D.C. from during the 70s, I had a great position. I was the liaison representative between Secret Service headquarters and the Department of State, Department of Justice, and all the FBI, and I was backup liaison with the CIA headquarters and FAA, and Capitol Hill. I was up there, liaison representative for Congress.
Yeah.
Also, and so I got to deal in that position with every federal agency.
Okay, I want to get on. We only have limited time today, so I really want to get on this Trump thing. So you say it's a bad day for America. Why?
Sure. Whenever any agency in our federal government
should not be weaponized.
Should not be weaponized against a Democrat or Republican.
Either
or.
One. That's right.
That is just wrong. And
like Starr, I thought he went out relentlessly against Clinton. Back off.
Right.
Even Rush, who was on my station, I wouldn't have had my show if it wasn't for Rush. It was like, would you please leave him alone? He's the president.
Mm-hmm. Right. And as a Secret Service agent, the Secret Service is non-political. I want to emphasize.
I hope that stays that way.
The fastest way for you to be fired as a Secret Service agent is to release any release any confidential information to the news media or anyone else, regarding their travel plans, anything, and go get that phone.
If you could turn that off, thank you. Go ahead, they can't hear it, go ahead.
Okay, so that's the fastest way for you to be fired, because during a presidential campaign, for example, we protect major presidential candidates. And during the campaign, one morning I remember I would be with Dan Quayle, who's on
I
the ticket.
interviewed him.
Right,
Yeah.
who was on the ticket with President George H.W. Bush.
Yes.
And then that evening, I would be with Michael Dukakis, Governor Michael Dukakis.
Democrat.
Yeah, Democrat. So this was back and forth all throughout your career, or especially during presidential campaigns. And you...
No preference.
No, none
of course
whatsoever.
not.
In fact, I had
Do you
no...
have to take any kind of a
I mean,
vow? Do you have to take a vow as a Secret Service guy?
No, just to protect the United States, the usual oath of
Yeah,
office. But,
yeah.
but no.
So help me God.
Yes. so help
Except
me
I
God.
was in
Yeah,
court
yeah,
last week.
Yeah.
They don't say that around here anymore.
Oh, really?
They just say, do you swear? Yes.
Yeah.
Not so help me God. I'm
Anyway.
not too pleased about
Anyway.
that.
Anyway, that's one thing I wanted to emphasize. We, as a Secret Service agent, you do not become involved in politics. You can vote, but that's it.
Every person can.
No,
Every
so
citizen.
therefore, I want to emphasize that. So anyway, from '58 until a few years ago, I was more or less connected with the federal government, your U.S. government, and I had to have these background investigations run on me.
I've got some homework for you to do.
Okay.
I think that in the future, that I would like to interview you. For instance, I was reading an accounting from a butler in the White House, and really liked Jimmy Carter. And I interviewed him too later on. We can talk about that. But the point is that the night that he lost, was it Ford?
Ford.
Okay.
No. Reagan.
Reagan, excuse me.
Sure.
So he lost against Reagan. No, they were both Republicans.
No. Jimmy Carter was a Democrat and Reagan was a Republican. See, this was.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm
1980
sorry, I'm talking about Ford. Okay, I'm mixed up.
1980 election. Okay.
So Carter loses against Reagan.
Right.
Now he said he went upstairs the door, whatever that door is, upstairs to their place, and he heard Rosalind, Amy, and the president guffawing, crying the night that he lost. Now, I will tell you that my experience with President Carter was this. We did an interview. We're doing it at the Vero Beach Book Center, which is emptied. There's 3,000 people in line down the street. They gave me priority. He and I are getting on very well. I told him about the last words of Lincoln. He did not know that. I told it to Kearns, whatever her name is. Anyway,
Doris Kearns.
yes, she's been on my show, and so but I told her this. But anyway, so Lincoln's last words, most people don't know, is he was watching a comedy. It was totally out of character, and he leaned towards his wife, Mary Todd, and said, "Mary, I don't." She said, "Totally out of character. We're watching a comedy." He says, "Mary, I don't understand it. I'm imbued with the desire to go to Jerusalem." Boom! And he was shot. Those were his last words. I believe that was God letting him know, give him a desire to where he was going to go, the New Jerusalem. Great president in my mind. Okay, so I told this to Jimmy Carter. Anyway, he and I hit it off. He said, "I didn't know that." And we're talking blah, 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 blah. So after we're connecting, I remember what we heard about the crying. I only learned that later on in life. Right. So when he lost the election. So when we stood up, I said, "Can I get my picture?" "Sure, sure." And then the Press Journal took my picture. I found out later on that they don't use the picture. They would never release that keepsake to me, which kind of irritated me. That's Press Journal people here. But anyway, but when I was going to leave, so Carter suddenly goes, he changed his personality. He goes, "Go ahead, get out of here. You got what you wanted." Almost like that. I go, "Wow, what was that?" I chewed on it for years. I said, why did he suddenly act that way? You know why? We had connected. He's about to have a perfunctory relationship with 3,000 people. "Hi, nice to meet you, President." Sign his autograph, move along, next person, blah, blah, blah. He and I actually connected. Okay. So now I'm leaving him, abandoning him. Maybe he had abandonment issues. I don't know. And I think he was hurt that I was going off and not staying there. This is all conjecture on my part. So what I want to know is, so I was just thinking, first of all, I want you to confirm that. If you could have any recollection of Carter, I'd like to hear it. But hold on. I think we should do this with all the presidents you work with. What I'm going to do is send you home, and what you do is, in the next couple of weeks, maybe chew on it. Okay, let's talk about Ford. What do I remember about Ford? Oh, that time that he fell down the stairs, or that time that he took the golf ball, or that time that he was angry with this person, or very kind to this poor man, or whatever it might be, to give us an indication of their essential code of ethics and character, whatever it might be. And so, do you think you could do that? Would you be willing?
As far as President Carter, I was with him 4 years on and off. I mean,
You were.
Oh, yes.
So, would you say he was a sensitive man, like I portrayed him?
He came from a nice family. I have
Just like
nothing
you.
negative to say about him
No,
personally or
no.
whatever.
Nice
maybe,
man.
Maybe a couple of his policy decisions or whatever, and that came with both Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah. He was
You
a
know,
little weak with the people coming in from
you know,
Cuba, but they all make
yeah,
their
yeah.
mistakes.
But good grief, I was been with him hundred, I don't know how many times throughout my for
But
4 years.
can you confirm
on
it?
and off?
Can you
okay.
confirm it all
What?
about what I said about his being a sensitive human? Would you say
Oh,
he was
I think
more
he's-
sensitive than
I
most?
think he was very sensitive when it comes to the Bible, and he was a Sunday
Kindness.
school teacher
Yeah.
until he became unable to.
Yeah, up
perform
in
those
America, you could go there every
And-
Sunday up
and-
till about
oh, yeah.
5 years ago.
No, he was a very religious person, and everything. There was just
So you would
nothing-
confirm what I said about this
Oh, yeah.
sensitive
Yeah,
guy?
I would agree with that. Yeah, he was very sensitive.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
But see, I would like you to think about it. Now, did you say you were working with Carter after he left the presidency?
oh yeah. When
So
he
you
would-
were on
when he
what do you
would
call
come,
that?
Yes, I
Oh.
would be involved in some of his visits as a former president,
Yeah.
as a Secret
As a
Service
visit to
agent.
where?
Well, for example, Danville, Kentucky. He came to Centre College one time there, and in fact, I have a photograph, two or three photographs with me, and while he's there, I'm in the background there at Centre College,
Cool.
And I have an autographed photograph of him. And
All right. Well,
that.
let's.
I
I
have
want
all
to
this
do. I want
stuff.
you to do
Okay.
this homework with
Okay.
the various presidents. You could, just like you've handed me this paper today. Maybe
Yeah.
a page. It doesn't have to have the answers, but maybe you might say, let's say he fell off a red wagon. We put here,
Right.
fall off red wagon. Don't put the explanation. We can just broach that subject.
Now-
Now, what I want to talk about today, though, is more about this Trump issue. I mean, should this this judge, who I have my suspicions about, send him to jail? What would it be like having the Secret Service in prison? Because the Secret Service gets to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just ludicrous. But on a personal side, you think this is terrible what they've done?
I think that the judicial system was stretched to the limits as far as constitutional rights and so forth. I'll put it that way. It
And
was
they're so
stretched to the
vitriolic.
limit.
Of course, you
And-
couldn't get a better candidate to be vitriolic towards because of his mouth.
Right.
He has said some things.
He has.
So
and-
he not only set fire to the field, but he screamed about it too.
Yeah, and what you need to do is look at the policies. That's what I look at. When with the presidents that I have not liked, look at their policies and see if they have made the country better for the citizens of the United States. And that's happened before. We've protected a presidential candidate ended up in jail before.
Yeah.
I bet. Am I going to stump you on this one?
Who was in jail before he was president?
A candidate for president ended up in jail, and we were protecting him at the time.
Who?
Dr. Spock. The
Oh, why did he go
doctor-
to jail?
Oh, he was out demonstrating and doing all regular law and everything, and so
Oh.
they sent him to jail, and we protected him
In jail.
In jail, yes. So that has happened before. Okay.
Well,
so
I
it's
think that
nothing
I'm going to go running for
new.
president of the United States there, and Hillary and I, because we want that protection
yeah.
if we ever have to go to jail. God bless you, and
but-
God bless America. I remember. Did you work with the guy I'm mimicking now,
Which one?
Clinton?
No, no. I retired before he
Oh, okay.
became president. But anyway, so Dr. Spock, and
How do you like
right
that?
after Senator Kennedy was assassinated
Yeah.
in June 1968, Congress passed a law. Immediately authorizing the Secret Service to protect major presidential candidates. Okay, major presidential candidates. So
Oh, because
therefore-
Kennedy's brother was shot, Robert
yeah,
F.
Robert F. Kennedy.
I met him in
right after
Poughkeepsie.
he was
yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
Then we started. The committee was formed in D.C. from someone from the legislature, 5 or 6 members of the committee, and they determined who would be considered a major presidential candidate. You had to, qualify in certain fundraising and this, that, or whatever. So they made the decision. It wasn't the Secret Service. So we So we therefore ended up protecting a lot of individuals like Shirley Chisholm, Congressman Shirley Chisholm, and then let's say Spock and two or three others, as a result of the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
Okay, so and so that's where that came into being. So we.
So you'd have to go into jail now with Trump. It'd be kind of crazy.
It would
So-
whatever it
But
takes.
I want to get more of this view too, because you were in a state of shock too,
Yeah.
with them using the judicial system.
Yeah,
in this manner.
I was in federal court throughout my career with my criminal investigations and
Yeah.
everything, and the people who threatened to kill the president. I investigated. In fact, that was
Did
one
you?
of my specialty, not specialty, but I was considered to be pretty good at that. And so I was constantly in and out of federal court. I've helped the assistant U.S. attorneys pick the juries. I'd sit right there with the assistant U.S. attorney in these criminal cases. So I'm familiar with the criminal system, and I'm familiar with most all federal agencies and everything. And so that's what I did. And and I. Oh my! So have experienced that, okay, firsthand,
Yeah.
with some complicated investigations. Trust me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's sad to. I'm sad, really sad, because I've been connected with the federal system since on and off since '58.
It's like
every
third
five-
world politics.
every
You
five-
don't do this.
Every 5 years.
You know how Biden could have won a whole lot of votes if he'd manned up and said, "No, we can't pull apart the country. I'm exonerating President Trump."
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine had he done that? He would have gotten more favor than he'd ever imagined the rest of his life. And I don't know if Romney heard me say this multiple times. I've interviewed him too. But Romney recently said that too. He said President Biden should have, and he's not been pro-Trump. Remember, this guy, what I just said.
No. In fact, he has really been against Trump.
Yeah.
I was in D.C. I was transferred to our headquarters in 1971,
Yeah.
and that was the same year that Biden was running for the U.S. Senate in Delaware, and I was there when his wife was involved in that automobile accident that killed her and one of their children, and so forth. So he took office on January the 3rd, 1972. And became a senator. I'm talking about Biden. So I've followed his career throughout for 50 years, maybe, on and off. And when I was there in D.C. and when I had liaison with
So
the
you got
US
to meet him
Congress,
many times.
No, I didn't.
But
meet
you
him.
did meet him. No,
No,
never.
he was there. I mean, he was just around. And when I was up
He was
there,
just around.
Yeah, when I was up there, when I had the liaison between our headquarters and U.S. Congress, I was up there every day.
Yeah.
Dealing with this, anything that came up between the Secret Service and the U.S. Congress, okay? And the same way with State Department, I had an office over at Main State, Foggy Bottom, and then I had my office in Secret Service headquarters. So I would come in the morning and from my office, Secret Service office there, and then I would go over to the rest of the day over at the Main State building where I had an office. So what I'm saying is I dealt with almost every federal agency on a headquarters level.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
With all issues, and I was the first secret law enforcement type to be honored with a luncheon in the FBI director's office. His lunchroom, his private dining room. Okay, and due to the fact my last name was Bell, and President Carter's Attorney General was Bell, the help there thought they were preparing the luncheon for the Attorney General.
Ah.
So in other words, I was over there. So what I'm saying is I am familiar with our federal government
Sure.
and everything that goes on.
So today's broadcast, by the way, is being brought to you in part by Center for Advanced Eye Care. Eye doctors that genuinely care about your eye care. Center for Advanced Eye Care right here in Vero Beach, Florida. Well, we're about out of time for today,
Okay.
Don Bell, former Secret Service agent. To thank you for serving your country for over 20 years and beyond your call of duty. And working with all these presidents, and we're going to have you back again soon. I'm sorry what's going on with Trump, and as you said, we don't think the judicial system should be aberrant in being used as a political tool.
Well,
Pardon?
our country made it through the Civil War.
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
And we've made it through some hard times.
So we'll make it through this because we do have our Constitution.
And I would like to. I could sit down with you, and we could go start at George Washington, and I can take you through every president of the United States up to the current president.
Well,
Okay?
I think that's a
And,
lovely
it's
idea.
Some unusual, interesting anecdotes about every president, and so forth. And
Maybe we could take the audio version of that, have it transcribed, and put a book out where that's what we're talking about, just the presidents
and
your
the
experience.
history of presidential assassinations.
You got a lot of homework to do, young
Well, no,
man.
I'm familiar with
Now,
that.
you're only 83. My best friend is turning 98 this week, so you get no mercy with me here.
So the history of presidential assassinations is very interesting.
Oh,
very
yeah.
interesting.
With the,
So,
yeah.
we could.
Now, by the way, if they want to read this book right here, it's called Struggle to Zero. It's because you were brought up in a house in Kentucky, didn't even have a restroom in it.
No,
Yeah.
we had these old zigzag railing fences they used back 300 years ago.
Yeah.
You know.
Is that what you really used?
Yeah, I meant that was that's the only fence I remember.
It wasn't even an outhouse?
Well, no, we didn't use that for an outhouse. No, but I'm just saying those were the type fences that we had.
Oh, okay.
Zigzag, railing fences.
He's visually seeing
No,
that.
you're from you're a city fellow. You
I'm
don't
a
know
city
all that.
slicker. He was a city
But
slicker.
but one thing I will not do is criticize our presidents, anything personal, because we see everything. And
I know stories behind
I
the
will
scenes.
not go
They're
there.
all human.
I will
They're
not go there.
human. They're not
as
guns.
a human being and anything that's personal.
Don Bell, thanks for coming in here. Great to see your son again, by the
Brian,
way.
that's Brian.
Brian, that's
Yeah.
Brian. Great to have you here, Brian. And also see the book on there, and it's available everywhere books are sold, right there. So who loves you, baby? The mayor of the airwaves. All right? Thanks, Don Bell.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you very
Don
much.
Bell.